The president of Botswana, Duma Boko, has called on African leaders that if they are defeated, they should accept the result of the election. He says that it is because of the greed of most African leaders of not accepting the result of the election, of deciding to stay in power, that has plunged the African continent into poverty, misery, suffering, and exploitation of Western nations. He said that most African leaders, when they are defeated in an election, they turn to Western nations to rely on them for their protection, and in so doing they exchange and they open their resources where these Western nations are prey on them, enjoy their resources, exploit them, because they have to give them protection from their angry masses. And that explains why areas where a president refuses to acknowledge the result of an election, nations, when the people rise it up, they are being quailed down, and Western nation has nothing to do. They instead ask the people to work in accordance with the government. So Duma Boko was also clear. He says that Botswana is an epitome of democracy, that he reiterated that it does not need 10 years to change Botswana. He says any meaningful leader would take 5 years to transform a nation. He was speaking in the SADC conference today, Sunday, which happens to be the 17th of August 2025. And I'll play the video so that you should hear from Duma Boko. And the message, he said, most African leaders have deliberately decided to make their people to live in perpetual poverty. And he said that is not the fate of Botswana. He called on the SADC leaders to see that they are supposed to uphold the integrity and put the peoples first. He also said that African nations are so greedy that they decide not to trade with each other. They prefer to trade with Western nations. And Western nations now determine what they eat, what they consume. And this is so bad for the health of Africans, so bad for the health of their people. He says that Africa must learn to cherish what they have, that Africa must unite if they must build a formidable economy. They must unite if they must actually build their force to actually fight against colonial mindset and colonial imperialism. He also noted that people are dying in the Mediterranean because of the the poor treatment of citizens by African leaders. And he called on leaders of the Southern African zone, the SADC, that they should be an example that of true governance and good governance. Ladies and gentlemen, watch Duma Boko.
And he communicated in no uncertain terms. He said to me, the count is still on. It looks you are winning. I want to give you my solemn assurance that if it continues like this, I will readily concede. These are words we would like to hear uttered in similar circumstances across the breadth and dimensions of the African continent. And if there is no inspiration, let Botswana be your guiding star, and others who've trodden this path before us, so that we cement and entrench the democratic credentials of not just the Southern African tip of the African continent, but the rest of the continent. We have recast the contours of democracy in the democratic space. And so, there was no democratic malfunction. Let there be no democratic malfunction anywhere on the African continent. Let us focus our collective attention on wrestling with the challenges that bedevil our continent. We have seen when the rough winds of circumstance demonstrated to us the challenge that faces multilateralism in today's world. We've seen how over-reliance on trade with certain powers of the world has rendered us so fatally vulnerable that we are now dependent on their mood swings. They determine what happens on the African continent. And this is because we've allowed ourselves to fall into a trap of self-loathing, where we've hated not just ourselves but our neighbors on the African continent. We've refused, we've been reluctant to trade with each other, to see and recognize each other's worth. We've come to that point, that inflection point in our history, when we must recognize that we need each other. We need each other desperately as African countries, as Africans. We must reach out across barriers, across boundaries, across barricades, and find each other, and lean on each other, and hold each other by the hand as we strengthen, deepen intra-Africa trade. That's our only means of survival. We've spoken on this. There's been a lot of political rhetoric around these issues. We are at that point where words must now translate into tangible deliverables. Hundreds of thousands of our citizens across the breadth, the length of the African continent are still caught in the hellish death grip of poverty and unemployment. Africa is in distress. It is calling out to each and every one of us. That cry of distress is a call to the rescue. And we must rise here and now and into the future and respond to that cry of distress.
Since 1993, the University Institute of the Gulf of Guinea, it is 3 higher schools, ESG, ISTA, ISA, 4 ultra-modern campuses with diversified training offer in order to obtain certificates like BTS, HND, academic degree, Bachelor in Technology, Professional Bachelor's degree, Professional Master's, Executive MBA, several national and international partners, and the best is yet to come. The University Institute of the Gulf of Guinea.
We train leaders since 1993.